Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel, live from Los Angeles. This is your host, Young Brando, and we are going to be talking watches tonight. I have a special treat down the line. Um, it's a milestone of sorts for the platform, maybe more for the Instagram side of things than YouTube, at least at this moment in time. But it is an interesting addition to my collection, certainly, but it also marks the crossing of a threshold for me personally as a content creator and as an influencer. So I very much look forward to sharing that with you. We're gonna start with some watch talk. I'm gonna talk about some of the things that I shared in the last few days, maybe going back to the beginning of this week on Instagram. Add a few layers perhaps to what I already shared with you there. Maybe talk a little bit about the background, maybe branch off to some other things, and then, pardon me, I want to talk about some recent releases. They're not all very new, but some perhaps that I've missed while I've been inactive, while I haven't been on YouTube, I should say, haven't been live streaming. So I'll try to catch up and talk about some of the things that I wanted to talk about. But obviously, as always, you should let me know if there are watch-related questions that you have and that you would like me to address, or honestly, anything that comes to mind that I might be willing to entertain. So let's get into it without wasting too much more time. We have also a small goal of 5 super chats of $5 plus each, which might expedite the unboxing. But we will start at any rate with some of the things that I shared over the last few days. But let's just go back to the last 2 days. We talked about an earlier watch on Chef Eric Ripper's wrist, the Vacheron Constantin Overseas, the first generation, which was something that I don't think anyone else had spotted or talked about before. That's what I do. My mind is kind of a mess between watches and soccer and Formula One, a little bit of tennis, a little bit of this and that, and certainly lots of other luxury items, usually related to the realm of menswear. And, Italian football, Serie A, so to speak, is where a lot of these come together. So the subjects of Italian football, Serie A teams, usually are some of my favorite to explore, at least on Instagram. And this is the Napoli president, Aurelio De Laurentiis, and he actually belongs to this family, De Laurentiis, that is a whole line of film producers. I think the famous producer Dino De Laurentiis was his uncle, I want to say. Aurelio De Laurentiis basically came into the frame in football terms when he bought Napoli, I think around year 2004, I want to say, when the team was bankrupt, and I think relegated all the way down to Serie C, so kind of the third tier of Italian football. And in the last 3 years, they have managed to win 2 titles and before that too, they had once again become serious contenders, which means a lot for a team that didn't have as many titles as Juventus, certainly not close enough. Didn't have the kind of European success that AC Milan had, for example. But suddenly, to those two titles won in Diego Armando Maradona's era, they have added another two. And before that, played many campaigns of Champions League where the team showed a lot. And there is more to go, I think, because Antonio Conte actually stayed with the team. They might have some further cash flow influx, whatever I should say, that might actually bring Napoli once again into the frame of winning yet another title. And that's important because especially last year, they really didn't have the strongest squad, right? Inter, perhaps in the last 5 years or so in the 2020s, usually has the better roster on paper. And one of the reasons that I think Simone Inzaghi was let go at the end of this season was because he didn't deliver. He only delivered one title in that 4-year stretch where he coached the team or where he led the team. And even with, the respect he brought to Inter with the 2 finals in the Champions League in the last 3 years, I don't think that was enough for that club. Anyways, so this is De Laurentiis, president of the reigning champions, Napoli, and he wears a Yachtmaster 40 in what Rolex calls Everrose, which is just a rose by another name, 18-karat pink gold. It is their proprietary alloy though, and it does have this sort of bronzish appearance to it that is quite distinct. Some swear by it, some hate it. I like it, especially in this combination. I think it has a certain appeal to me. I've always been a fan of the Oyster Flex, and this was actually the first watch a decade ago now that introduced Oyster Flex, a black rubber strap, if you really want to simplify it, to the Rolex catalog. Of course, it has these titanium / nickel inserts for reinforcement, so it actually wears quite interestingly and molds to your wrist over time. So it's not just another rubber strap, so to speak. And he has been one of the early adopters of this watch. I have seen it on his wrist at least since 2016 or so. So this must be one of the early versions. I guess the reference 116655. A lot of boxing going on this weekend, and there was a whole card last night, which was very much infused with women's boxing, with the marquee fight being the completion of a trilogy between the Irish Olympic legend Katie Taylor and a Nuyorican icon in Amanda Serrano. And Katie Taylor actually won again, which means that she has completed that trilogy with 3 straight wins against Amanda Serrano. She has only one loss in her professional career, and this is from the night in 2023, November 2023, when she had avenged that defeat. And Ed Sheeran was in attendance to support her. Ed Sheeran, of course, is from England, but he is of Irish descent on both his father's and mother's side. and he has made many statements to say that he feels more Irish than anything. So I guess that's one of the reasons that brought these two figures together. And on that night, he was wearing the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Perpetual Calendar in black ceramic, the reference 26579 CE. That watch is also a milestone for its respective maker. This was the first time when the maker from Le Brassus actually produced an entire watch in ceramic, case, bracelet, and all. And of course, it's more valuable in a way because as a Royal Oak, it preserves, it still exhibits all those intricate finishing details that Gérard Janta's original design had brought into the field now more than 50 years ago. I've talked about ceramic watches before. Again, it seems to be somewhat of a divisive issue among true watch aficionados. And, you know, I appreciate that. And I was myself a huge skeptic before I had actually seen one of these. And in my case, it was a blue ceramic example. And I genuinely, from a distance, from pictures, I've hated that watch. I guess I really wanted to hate it at a certain level. I don't know, I thought it was gaudy. I didn't necessarily like the shade of the blue. Turns out AP itself didn't either, and it was mostly a mistake. But what came out of that, I think, when you see it in person, in that whole Royal Oak execution, in that exact treatment, how it wears, how light it is without feeling cheap whatsoever, is quite an experience. Again, the white, at any rate, had a short production run because of supposedly stability issues. I have no idea. The blue was mostly an accident, and now they have introduced a new shade of blue that kind of takes inspiration from that original tapisserie dial color, that kind of night sky, cloudy night sky blue, as the name of that dial has it. But the black one, you know, I can kind of roll with it. And also, another thing to keep in mind is that the ceramic as a material to produce and finish, I think, takes roughly about 7 times as much time than it does making the same watch in stainless steel. So that's something to keep in mind when looking at ceramic as an horological material, especially when the finishing is a little more complicated than just kind of monotonous, blasted sort of numbers that are churned out by some other brands. So this was something that I connected to that night. I do want to share these 2 links while I'm at it, and if you want to give any comments or likes on Instagram, that's always much appreciated. And if you don't already follow me, please do so. Again, I have more of a critical mass there than here after having them mostly in balance for a long while, and then, you know, so my main worry is carrying over some traffic from there to here. But again, you know, maybe you'll be so nice enough to share the link to this channel on other platforms with other watch enthusiasts, and I would be more than grateful for that. This is from earlier today, you might also say yesterday, from Wimbledon. As you might know, Catherine, Princess of Wales, she has been the patron of that event, I think, since 2018, which is when she inherited that from the late Queen Elizabeth. So she was in attendance. She was ready to make the presentation, of course, to the winner and the loser, of course, of the ladies' singles final, where Iga Świątek took on Amanda Anisimova and won without conceding a single game. And this was Świątek's first Wimbledon title. But again, I think Catherine looked great, especially for someone who is recovering from cancer. I think she's really an inspiration. And she was wearing her classic Cartier Ballon Bleu, the 33 millimeter model. Of course, she has been, wearing this watch for more than a decade now, and it was a personal gift from William, the current Prince of Wales, to her. And of course, the blue cabochon of the captive winding system there, I think fits beautifully with that sapphire engagement ring that Catherine has, and that I believe Princess Diana also wore, once upon a time. And this is the latest one, and I'm really proud of this as well, because Evan Fanke is one of my favorite chefs. Oh, thank you, by the way. There are some messages. Oh, chalk flew up. Right when I was talking about tennis, right? That makes a lot of sense. And it's a big contribution, $20. It may have been a grass court tournament, but this is a clay color-coded super chat. Evening, double bagel today for Świątek. Thanks for streaming tonight. Yeah, thank you so much for your support, man. I appreciate it. And you're also a member of the channel. So I see you. Thank you so much. And my friend Ryan Hoffrey apparently is there at a formalish party, dressed in three-piece Isaiah. I don't know what TOTL means, so you might need to break that down for me. I mean, my English is fine, but it's not my first language, far from it, in fact. So, I don't always get the vernaculars and abbreviations, so you might need to help me with that. White Royal Oxford shirt, Brioni purple striped tie, Sutor Mantelasi Benchmade Norwegian welted Norwegian split toe. Shalom, brother. Shalom. This reads like one of those passages in Bret Easton Ellis's American Psycho. Everything is so precisely branded and explained. I like it. I don't hate it. Ryan Offrey says, I can't super chat at the moment, or I happily would. I appreciate it. The thought counts. Gotta go. Hope to see you soon. Until then, Tissot Couturier with the 5-point adjusted gold rotor caliber. Shader. says that's I think that's the watch you're wearing. Chalk flew up. Thank you again for your contribution. This was an exciting one for me. I just came across his portrait for Mother Wolf. This is Evan Funke, or Funky, I guess is how he pronounces the last name. He's a Los Angeles born and raised chef and American Solino, pasta maker, so to speak. And he's the chef and co-owner of 3 restaurants here in Los Angeles: Mother Wolf in Hollywood, Funky in Beverly Hills, and there's also Felix Trattoria, I believe, in Venice Beach. I've never been there. But I've gone a couple of times to Mother Wolf with Italian friends, and they were all quite amazed and actually very complimentary for his take on Roman cuisine. And I've never seen that when I not to stereotype, right? You know, because I do, being an immigrant myself, I hang out with a lot of immigrants, and the worst, not the worst, but the most difficult thing to do with that sort of circle is to go to a restaurant where your national or regional cuisine is represented, right? You know, that's the reason why I avoid myself Middle Eastern restaurants for the most part. Because usually it's either not nearly good enough or just way too expensive for what it is, for what I'm used to, right? Because a lot of the best of Middle Eastern food is what we can call street food, and it should be something that, you know, you can buy with some loose change in your pocket from a hole in the wall, and it will be delicious. Anyway, so that's me and my casual review of an average Middle Eastern restaurant in the U.S. Imagine an Italian going into an Italian restaurant in the U.S. So I completely empathize with the situation, but in this case, they loved it on both occasions, which I think is as high of a praise as an American chef can get. And I mean, obviously, he was educated both here and in Italy, so he knows very well what he's doing, and he's probably this side of the Atlantic is probably the most prominent pasta maker in terms of making everything in the proper way and entirely by hand. And he's wearing a Rolex Sea Dweller, the ST43, as it's sometimes called. This was the model introduced in the 50th anniversary of the model in 2017, reference 126-600. It's also called single red, right? Because it has a single line of red writing on the dial, just like some of the earliest examples of the Sea Dweller. Of course, the more popular and more common vintage collectible version of the Sea Dweller is the earlier examples of 1665, which have 2 lines of red writing and therefore are called double red Sea Dweller, or DRSD, speaking of abbreviations. But I actually really like this watch. Those who know me would know that I came pretty close to buying this watch in stainless steel and two-tone, but I backed away both times because it's simply too big for my wrist. And if you have watched some of my YouTube shorts where I have wrist rolls with some of these watches, especially the SD3 in the two-tone version, it's just too big for for my skinny wrist. So I just couldn't roll with it, but it remains one of my absolute favorites in the current Rolex catalog. And again, with everything that Rolex does, and it might not always hit the right spot with the market, with the enthusiasts. It might not always be commercially successful. There's a reason behind what they do with their marketing, what they do with their placement of a model in the catalog. And in this case, it was simply going to be a thicker Submariner if they left it at 40 millimeters, right? There was simply not a place for a Sea Dweller, which was really the more utilitarian, more tool watch-like cousin or sibling of the Submariner. In the modern catalog, where Rolex doesn't really do tool watches per se, and where you have models like the Deep Sea and more, you just had to, Deep Sea and Deep Sea Challenge, right? When you have those kinds of models, you have, of course, the Deep Sea Challenge came after, but you have to somehow have something that has its particular niche in the catalog, and that's the reasoning behind the Sea Dweller growing in size, growing in case diameter. I know the Cyclops was quite controversial too, because this is, again, the first Sea Dweller that features that magnifier over the date window for a Sea Dweller. And Rolex's excuse was that they always had wanted to do it. It's just with those classic tropical acrylic super domed crystals of the time, it was not possible to properly place a Cyclops magnifier that would not fly away under actual immersion. So again, in the post-utilitarian, post-tool watch era of Rolex, they needed to do something different with the Sea Dweller if they were going to introduce something that was not as monstrous, as beastly as a Deep Sea. And I think it looks just great on Evan Funke's wrist. Cooking watch, as we like to say with my friend Aussie expat, right? It's the only tool in this case would be to think of it as a cooking watch, fully graduated, of course, dive timer, bezel, so you can know exactly how many minutes you need to cook your pasta to get that classic al dente bite. So he's wearing just a perfect piece for the job. Chalk Flew Up says, by the way, Felix is such an amazing restaurant. I have not sampled that, but I will keep it in mind. I don't usually go to that part of the town. I try to go west, but I hardly venture anywhere beyond Westwood. I should, though. I should. Venice Beach is always interesting, but I haven't been to Venice Beach for more than 5 years, I'm afraid. All right, so next up is actually the new examples of the Breguet Type 20. Oops, I thought I kicked myself out for a second, but that's not. By the way, please hit the like button, right? I know it's minimal, but it does make a difference. Of course, it's Breguet's 250th anniversary this year, and they wanted to celebrate it with a number of new releases. And you guys remember one of my main qualms with the new Type 20 releases was precisely the case size and how, especially with the inclusion of a date window at roughly 4:30, how it really didn't stay loyal to the original design. And I was mostly more disappointed because Breguet actually made great reproductions of their classic Type 20 watches for the now defunct charity event auction only watch on 2 different occasions. And they have finally decided to add something into their catalog that offers that sort of vintage taste. So let's talk about that. This is the Type 20 chronograph 2075. And I think it's a very handsome looking watch. Obviously, I love the fact that the case has been shrunk back down to around 38 millimeters. I think the exact measurement is something like 38.3. It's not a very thin chronograph, but the watch features the same movement that has been introduced with the new line of Type 20s. It's aesthetically different, but remains, I believe, the architecturally, I should say, the same. Because as far as I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, the 42 millimeter watches were actually automatic, right? And this one is actually a hand wound movement. But as far as I can see, architecturally the movement remains the same. It's just modified to be hand wound rather than self-winding. Now, I think my main issue beyond the price tag, which is quite hefty, I believe, when all is said and done, you would be leaving the boutique with having paid more than $45,000. Yes, it's a gold watch presented on a leather strap from Breguet, which, you would at least, I think, expect something more akin to a high horology object than simply a fancy replica watch made in gold. And I think this plate, this decorative plate they used on the movement, it's just not it, right? I think the details and the commemorative inscriptions and and engravings. They're nice, they're cute, maybe even inspiring. But I think at this price point from Breguet, I would expect something more. You know, I would expect a nice, just a fully exhibited. It is a hand-wound movement after all, right? You know, you don't have anything obstructing your view of the elements of the chronograph. That's one of the most beautiful things to exhibit through a Sapphire exhibition caseback, right? Hand-wound chronograph movement. Why not take full advantage of it? Maybe you won't get, you know, the level of hand finishing that you expect from the best of today's independent watchmakers, but I would, you know, even an industrial kind of approach would have been fine. I would have loved to see the actual movement rather than commemorative plates slapped onto it. And I understand, again, I know that's Breguet's price point. I know it's nothing new. And the watch, you know, tugs at my heartstrings in every other possible way. I like the fact that it's a 2-register number, that it has the classic big eye at 3 o'clock, true to the original. Right? I mean, there's hardly anything that I can genuinely complain about from you know, from a, pardon me, from an aesthetic standpoint, right? I actually also like the pink gold cases and how it's finished, how it looks. You know, I love a lot about this watch. It's just, realistically speaking, if you're gonna come up with a sporty chronograph line where you are competing with, especially the Daytona, and when you are pricing your pieces at the level of a Daytona, if not a little more expensive, when you look at the stainless steel, it's more expensive without the bracelet. And yes, the Daytona in stainless steel is unobtainable at the point of sale for many people, but we have to, you know, we have to take the pricing at face value at a certain point. And if you're gonna compete with that, directly with that, and even a notch above that in terms of your pricing, you need to offer more. You need to offer more. Just the name Breguet, just the signature of Breguet at 12 o'clock is not enough to justify that price point, because that's what you're competing against, right? Breguet might have 250 years history. Daytona, with Rolex's own chronograph movement, is actually just 25 years old. However, it is the gold standard, right? It is the gold standard, and you have to either bring something really path-breaking in terms of design or techniques to the table, or, you know, you need to offer something more, especially when you're asking more in terms of the price. JB, nice to see you, man, and thank you so much for your contribution. So we are only 3 super chats away, guys, from our goal. If we get there, I will shift gears and do the unboxing right away. You guys see that there's like a top fans ranking now, right? It's like a list that's made in real time. that gives points to not only your super chats, but also to your contributions to the chat. And I really like it. And Chalk Flew Up has a considerable lead over everyone else, but there's like a top 3 that you can see there, and it appears next to your nickname too. Captain Kirk 3, didn't Swatch water down the independent creativity of Breguet? Yeah, I think you got it right on the nose with that rhetorical question. And I will ask you guys, by the way, to hit the like button, which genuinely helps a great deal to me at each instance. You know, even when there is, you know, for people who watch it after the fact, especially. And I try to also just incentivize watching things live, right? You know, I usually don't turn on the monetization until after we are done with the live stream. And even if I have it turned on, which is usually not the case, I try to make sure it's not aggressively high, because as someone who who consumes some content on YouTube, what I really dislike is watching live streams where you're interrupted almost every 5 minutes with a new ad. So I try to shy away from that. So instead, if you could help me out with the likes, so that the video is seen a little more, by sharing the link, and of course any other kind of contribution you can make for this independent channel that has a lot of bills to pay, even in and of itself. I talked about this a little bit last time, 2 days ago, when I came back, that I had to renew StreamYard, and that was an expense in and of itself. Anyway, so anything that you can chip in, as you know, it's brought right back to the channel. I still have a lot to improve here. I think my next purchases will be finally a new bookcase right here, where I will have my watch books right next to me, and magazines and auction catalogs. And hopefully I will get that famous Francis Bacon self-portrait that I have, him showing his wristwatch. I will finally have that framed and kind of set it somewhere behind me. So those are some of the things that you will see right away in terms of your contributions to the channel. Without further ado, so this is only one of these new Type 20 chronographs, and this is the non-limited model, so to speak. It's priced at $43,500 in US dollars, and there's also a limited edition that has a silvered dial, which, again, I think it's a stunning look. It's kind of, I guess, it is on the dressier side of the spectrum compared to the classic sporty look of the black dial version, right, which has the 12-hour counter on the directionally rotatable bezel, right? And that makes sense because you don't have a register for counting the hours. So it's absolutely amazing. The syringe hands and the spare shaped tip for the spear-shaped tip for the centrally deployed chronograph hand. So what you have here is more of a sporty look. So even though you have the exact same case, both in terms of size and finish. What you have with the limited edition is actually a watch that's on the much more classical, much more dressier side of things. You have, nevertheless, a tachymeter scale on the periphery of the dial, which you don't have in the in the sportier model, in the non-limited model with the black dial. You have beautifully balanced and very well placed, symmetrically speaking, two-register look to this. You see how nicely proportioned the registers are in connection to the crown, and how they are placed in that alignment across the line. Now there are these blue details, right? The hours on the bezel are inscribed in blue, or filled in blue. The tachymeter is inscribed on the periphery in blue. And in fact, the centrally deployed leaf-shaped chronograph hand is blued as well. And as you can see, this one, instead of those luminous numerals, has only two Arabic numerals at 12 and 6, both of which are applied, and classic obus-shaped, bullet-shaped, multifaceted markers applied for the hours. The hands also go with these, even though they are luminous. And again, this is a piece that I really like. The markup isn't so insane compared to the non-limited edition, right? You go up from 43.5 to 45.2. That's fair game. But once again, I'm kind of puzzled for the notion that that you have to pay at the level of a Daytona without getting anything extra. Without getting anything that would distinguish Breguet at that level, right? And again, I agree with you, Captain Kirk. I'm a skeptic anyways when it comes to Swatch Group in general, right? As much as I I want to cherish them, and I value them for having saved so many brands from the brink of disaster in the relatively recent past. That doesn't mean they are immune to any sort of criticism in the present, right? They simply don't have, I think, the wherewithal to equally deal with, I think they have like 17, certainly more than a dozen, considerably more than a dozen heritage brands that have considerable name recognition and the and a history to contend with. And I'm not sure if they are really giving enough attention to every single one of them. I think, in fact, with certain ones, and Omega, and more recently Blancpain are those brands that they're cheapening them with this idea of making plastic replicas of their most iconic designs, in the name of sharing the joy with more people. I'm not sure if that's the right way to go. I'm just not convinced myself, right? Your mileage may vary, but that's what I think. I have talked too many times about this, both about the so-called moon swatch and the thrifty fathoms, as I coined the phrase, when it comes to the System 51 examples of the Blancpain. I mean, of the 50 fathoms. Yeah, when they were popular, they were all over the place. You could see it on the wrists of people you wouldn't expect. And where are they now? Right? Probably rotting somewhere in some deep dark, in some drawer somewhere. And I find it especially ironic that they would have a whole marketing campaign about saving the oceans with 50 fathoms, basically making disposable plastic watches. I'm not sure if that contributes in any way to saving the ocean. Quite the opposite, if I must say. I was just wondering how many pieces, because I actually did forget for the limited edition. So for, oh yeah, 250, of course. So the silver dial is actually limited to 250 pieces and priced at 45,200. Both of them are powered by the hand-wound version of the new high-frequency 5 hertz movement. And the black dial, that's the sportier design, that's more in line with the original purpose-driven piece that was first commissioned by the air forces of the French Navy in mid-20th century, is priced at $43,500, and it has that classic two-register look with a big eye counter, syringe hands, Arabic numerals. It's just a great-looking watch, and I'm not necessarily contesting the price point, but I would have expected more from Breguet at this price point, because the competition is fierce, right? You can't compare your prices to how Daytonas trade on the secondary market and then consider yourself a bargain compared to those unrealistic prices, and not offer something that's more distinctive and more appealing, more elegant, more high horological. I think that should be what Breguet is about, not simply offering an alternative at the same price and expecting that you will sell just because your watch is readily available and priced, lower compared to how things trade on the secondary market. I think that's an illusion. You can't win like that. Part of these 250th anniversary celebrations was a new tourbillon. I'm an even bigger fan of this watch, even though obviously this is a much less realistic acquisition for most of us, for most watch enthusiasts, for most collectors, because I think we're talking about $250,000 outlay when all is said and done. But if Breguet is celebrating quarter millennium of heritage, it has to have a very special tourbillon, and they have done exactly that in the Classique Tourbillon Sidéral 7255. This is also a limited edition piece, and in this case, I think the numbers are much more limited. Damn, I don't know why I keep losing this. I even had made a cheat sheet. This time it's limited to 50 pieces, but this particular watch basically has three novelties, three unique elements that have never been done by Breguet. First of all, this is the first time that Breguet has a serially produced model with a flying tourbillon. Very quickly explained, a flying tourbillon features a tourbillon cage that does not have an upper bridge, so you can actually have an unobstructed view of the mechanism in its revolution, because your full frontal experience won't be impeded by the existence of an upper bridge, no matter how finely executed and expertly finished. So there's only a lower bridge. The second novelty, speaking of that lower bridge, is the tourbillon cage is realized. It's executed in such a way that makes it a mystery, in the sense that you have the lower bridge as well as the base support of the tourbillon cage in sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating. So from the full frontal view especially, they are not immediately visible to the eye. So the entire mechanism, one, looks like, pardon me, it's suspended in air. Two, it also, the way it's set off from the rest of the movement, with its connection to the larger mechanism, the contact point between the tourbillon carriage and the rest of the gears, is so subtly done that it looks like the tourbillon carriage kind of exists in separation, independently from the rest of the movement. And the third element that's quite unique to this watch is the Aventurine dial, which I don't think has been done by Breguet before. It might not be very unique at this point. You might even say that aventurine is in vogue. What is at stake here is not a natural stone example of an aventurine dial. This is actually a grand feu enamel. So that's aventurine glass powder mix that gives the look of a starlit sky to the entire backdrop that surrounds the tourbillon cage, and also, of course, that serves as a backdrop to the off-center dial for the hours and minutes that's shifted towards 12 o'clock in this case. And what you have is a 40 millimeter, no, it's a 38 millimeter, that's even better, piece in Breguet's proprietary alloy, which usually strikes me as more of a pink gold than anything. The watch itself has a beautiful movement that beats at 2.5 hertz with a 50-hour power reserve, and an exhibition case back which does not exhibit much, but has a decent guilloche finish. And of course, it has that classic Breguet inscription that has the date of the initial pattern that Abraham Louis Breguet took for his tourbillon. As I mentioned, this is more of an unrealistic acquisition for most of us mortals. Only 50 pieces, to be sure, but also priced at about $250,000. When all is said and done, I guess $250,000 for the 250th anniversary of Breguet. Easier said than done, but this is it. Look, I mean, I think it's a fantastic watch. I like the idea of celebrating quarter millennium of heritage with one of the touchstones of that heritage, which is the tourbillon, of course, when it comes to the proper name Breguet. I'm not a huge fan of the aventurine dial, especially. I think it's a little bit too much for my taste, but hey, this is a 50-piece limited edition. It's supposed to be too much in a way. And the execution is, I think, more similar to Alan Gunzune's aventurine dials, because it's not a natural stone dial, but in the same way, it's kind of a glass mix. So still, it's a very handsome looking watch. I like that it's a flying tourbillon, which is something that I always love seeing on the dial side of the watch. And in fact, that flying tourbillon is executed in such a manner where you see it even as being suspended in air, right? You know, like a mystery element, as it's sometimes called in the world of watches. So it's very cool. It's very cool. I feel like we are falling away from our goal. I don't know how much time has passed. Oh yeah, the time ended. We couldn't really get there in time. We can try again of 5 super chats of this time $2 and higher in the next 30 minutes. And I will do the unboxing immediately. But for now, I will continue with what I wanted to say about some of the new releases. And again, if you're getting impatient, if you wanna simply chip in for more support, feel free to send in a super chat with a question. Of course, it doesn't just have to be a nice gesture. I'm happy to help you, and you will help me help you. And we're going to talk about Chopard. Chopard is celebrating the 20th anniversary. They're also one of those brands that love celebrating anniversaries, right? It seems like every year they're celebrating a new anniversary, but this is a very unique one, because Chopard, especially the LUC arm of Chopard, really operates essentially as a boutique high horology watchmaker that maybe is more akin to of course, more like somewhere between Alain Gunzun and Vacheron Constantin, I guess, than a true independent, both in terms of I guess the structuring of the brand, in terms of their volume of production, but also in terms of the quality. And part of that quality, of course, is that of chronometric precision. In the LUC line, there's not a single watch that is not chronometer certified, right? Usually, people forego cost certification for tourbillon wristwatches, for example, because tourbillon itself is supposed to be a regulatory mechanism, right? Chopard sends even those out to get properly certified, so they really care about that. And beyond that, 20 years ago, they actually decided, by joining forces with the rest of watch brands that are part of that watchmaking ecosystem that's established in the historic town of Fleurier, they aspire to a standard that is in many ways more stringent, and if not objectively superior, certainly superior, in my opinion, to the hallmark of Geneva, and that's Qualité Fleurier. I think Chopard is really the only brand that continues to make watches that adhere to that standard, and it's only a very, very limited sliver of their production as well. So don't let that fool you. You will see more watches within the LUC line that carry the hallmark of Geneva than QF, than Qualité Fleurier. However, they have initially joined forces with Parmigiani Fleurier, Beauvais, and Vaucher to establish this series of tests that include, of course, the cost certification for chronometric precision, but also, in addition to standards of finishing, assembly, and regulation, something they call chronofiable, which is for the robustness of the watch, a series of tests for that, and what they call Fleury test, which is actually a very interesting sort of simulation that puts the watch through the paces and through the movement of activity similar to your daily activity, similar to the activity and movement of that watch on your wrists, right? Whether that's running, slinging your arms, talking like I do, using your hands, opening a door, shutting the car door, so on and so forth, right? If not necessarily athletic activity, but certainly a genuine simulation of the everyday movement of a human wrist. And all of this adds up to Qualité Fleurier, and essentially they wanted to celebrate the 20th anniversary of this by releasing this LUC chronometer in yellow gold. It has that classic case of, I think it's 30, I want to double check here, 39 millimeters in diameter. It has these distinctive lugs, welded lugs to the yellow gold case that have almost like a shoulder to them. Syringe-tipped alpha hands, which are complemented by applied arrow-shaped hour markers. The dial has kind of like a sector look in two-tone, a champagne accent at the center, and the snailed subdial for seconds at 6 o'clock, as well as the minute track, and then kind of like a chocolate tone for the hour track, where you have the applied arrow markers. And there's of course a lot of luminous material, well, generous luminous material on the hands, and some also dots or pips behind most hour markers, except the quarters, which are more generously loomed again. And I think the watch, for a yellow gold watch especially, splits the difference between dressy and sporty quite well, especially with the choice of this rich brown strap that has something of a weathered look, and white contrast stitching, which I think really complements and really brings out that chocolate tone of the hour track. The movement, of course, is their classic micro-rotor movement that comes from the lineage of the original 9601, which was introduced in 1996 and was designed by Michel Parmigiani for LUC Chopard. This current version is a 9609 -L, no date, a double barrel movement that has 65 hours of power reserve, and it has again bidirectionally charging micro rotor in 22 karat gold that winds the watch. I think the movement again is beautifully finished, and it's this is kind of what I would have preferred, right? To see in Breguet overall, but especially in a special watch like this. Of course, this is just a simple time-only movement, so just the partial exposure of the main gears of the movement, I think, is nice and suggestive enough. Of course, for a hand-wound chronograph, you want something that's a little more revelatory, so to speak. But maybe we're asking too much. But anyway, so this piece is actually quite exclusive, although I'm sure it's not impossible to acquire, because there are 20 pieces for 20 years of Qualité Fleurier, and they are priced at around 32,300 plus tax, I believe. Beautiful watch. Again, if you like a yellow gold piece, which is not that easy to come by when it comes to Chopard, I have to say, at least for a time-only number. These days, it's not very common. It might be an interesting watch to pursue, and it's so much different than another big hit they have, of course, as part of the LUC line, the Salmon Dial 1860, which was a huge hit, of course, when it came out. Right, so you have a very different watch in this compared to the Qualité Fleurier piece. So they're not doubling up, but pardon me. If you want something that's a little more distinctive rather than classical like this, I think this anniversary edition really offers something new, really brings something else to the table. Speaking of that, I can certainly add to this discussion the new LUC Quattro. This is the Mark IV. Quattro, of course, refers to the 4 barrels of the movement. This is, as you can see on the back, a watch that has 9 days of power reserve. And I really like the idea of having the power reserve indicator kind of embedded onto the bridge plate of the movement and seen through the case back, so you don't crowd the dial unnecessarily. And also, it's a very handy indicator while you are actually charging the watch before putting it on your wrist. Speaking of the hallmark of Geneva, this is a watch that carries that hallmark. And it's in platinum with this fascinating dial, which kind of has an ice blue shade with a dimpled surface that's reminiscent of the tremblage technique, and I'm not entirely sure whether that's the case, whether that's how they are finished. If anyone knows in the audience that particular detail, I would be happy to Pardon me, happy to hear it. It's also the 25th anniversary of the Quattro series, and Quattro refers to the 4-barrel movements where these barrels are coupled in series, in pairs, and it contains exactly 1.885 meters of springs. Which gives you altogether an exceptional power reserve that is the equivalent of 9 days, 216 hours. And for a movement that beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour, that's quite respectable. So for full 4 hertz movement with 216 hours of power reserve at full crank, that's quite a bit. Once again, of course, the watch is chronometer certified by COSC. The movement carries the hallmark of Geneva, beautiful platinum case with this distinctive ice blue dial. One thing that I don't understand with this new system is the quick change strap system. I think it was enough to have leather straps with neatly exposed spring bars, where you have one lip there where you can easily manipulate the spring bar with like a short fingernail even. I don't know. You don't see, of course, this part of the mechanism when the watch is on your wrist, but I find it fairly inelegant on a leather strap to have this sort of, I don't know, this sort of mechanical bulk, honestly. But perhaps that's just my pet peeve. I think it's a little too much. Just for a quick exchange system, like the classic open lip hinge here would be just fine. Again, for a 9-day power reserve watch, this watch is by no means ultra thin, but it's not that thick either. It's I think less than 10.5 millimeters in thickness, the case. And again, has a very nice 2 different strap options that I think look very handsome. I'm particularly a big fan of this slate gray grained calfskin leather strap that gives a very sporty appearance to this watch. And it's priced at $50,300. That was the LUC Quattro Mark IV. Hi, Bruce G. Nice to see you as well. Well, we are almost approaching an hour and a half, so your thumbs up are appreciated. I'm not sure if we are going to reach our super chat goals to encourage me to expedite the unboxing, meaning that I would be more than happy if someone jumped on the panel and at least accompanied me. That would be nice. Maybe I will just wait for that for a moment while I give some hints, give some clues as to what the watch might be. Again, of course, anything out of your generosity would still go quite a long way. But I will just proceed. And again, if the link is there, I'm not sure if I pinned it this time around. Let me do that now. So if you want to join me on the panel while I unbox, that would be also a fantastic way to celebrate it. I've mentioned already, I gave you my first clue. It's a watch that marks a milestone, the crossing of a threshold for me as a content creator, as an influencer, as I mentioned. So that's our first clue. The second clue, it's from a brand that has not been in my collection, and I dare say it's probably not really ever present in our collections overall. You know, at least most people I know. You might be familiar with the name, but I haven't seen these watches around all that much yet. And it's a design, I have to say, I don't even know who you are talking about, John C. I don't want to, I don't want to automatically ban you because I don't know, but please don't bring any drama or anything about other characters, in the larger live stream / watch talk universe. I mean, we already know the people I hate. We already know the people I tolerate. We already know the people I actually like, that I'm friendly with, that I consider genuinely enemies. We don't need to rehearse these things. So it's if there are any new characters that sprung up while I was gone, I couldn't possibly care less. I'm sorry, man. It's not. I don't want to overreact to it, but I'm really not interested in what's going on in the so-called Archieverse at this point. I'm completely disconnected to it. I have not watched a single video or followed a single live stream of any other channel while I was gone. So going forward, I will be even less interested and more disconnected from that mess. And I include in that every single channel that you can think of in terms of watch talk, right? I don't want anything to do with them. I'm not going to appear in anything else. That's it. I don't want to talk much more. But thanks for saying that you will stop. I appreciate that. I like dogs. I don't care who their owner is. I always love dogs. So I'm sure that's a good boy. All right. Going back to it. So Bruce G, good guess, but no, it's not mad, and it's not connected to MBNF. Although I have, for those who are in Southern California or who might be in Southern California / Los Angeles in the first half of September, I am actually collaborating with MBNF. I am organizing an event with them, so it's going to be very exclusive. But if you are part of my audience, and if you have been watching this channel for a while, and if you live in Los Angeles, or if you happen to be passing through Southern California in the second week of September, let me know. Write to me. It can be even a comment to this video. It can be a DM to me on Instagram. It can be an email even to me. Some of you guys have my emails. Please write to me if you want to possibly participate in this event that I am organizing with MBNF. So great guess, but no, it's not a MAD or not an MBNF. And by the way, it's, again, I guess I've said as much already, but it's a partnership. So it's not something I paid for out of my own pocket, right? It's something I received in partnership because of something I've done for a brand. And that, if you're observant enough, that might be actually the ultimate clue. So you might already guess what it is. I've given you the clues. I've said it's a Milestone collaboration. So that's one idea. It's a new brand to me, and it's not really a brand that you see all over the place, at least not just yet. It's difficult to find in the wild. And 3, it's designed by one of my favorite living watch designers, who has done some memorable things in the past, some mammoth designs of mammoth like proportions, let's put it like that. Very important designer. Pardon me. Feel free to get your guesses. I will get the box in the meantime, and we will get to it. Just give me a few seconds. The mic is with me, so I can still talk to you, even if I can't see your guesses on the screen. Feel free to hit the like button in the meantime. This canvas bag that I just placed right next to me might be a clue in and of itself, so I'm not gonna show that just yet. Okay, so we have the box right here. It's a nice little travel box, but I think it's a great presentation box as well. You guys know I like green when it comes to these things, especially this particular shade. Unfortunately, it's not an AP. Rowing Blazers would not count, Bruce G, because I already have Rowing Blazers Seiko 5 in my collection, and as you know, I gave away a quartet of those. So that's common enough for this channel, at least. So again, great guess. A brand I love, even though my friend Jack Carlson has moved on. It's still part of his legacy. The watches especially are even more dear to me because those are collaborations between Jack and Eric Wind. So, and their Seiko, right? You can hardly get much better than that. But yeah, there we go. We have a nice green box. Leather or fake leather, we have to do this. a live smelling ASMR action. It has to be done. It did have a nice outer box as well, which unfortunately was crushed a little bit in delivery. No complaints, just a small thing. The watch itself was great. The box itself was really well preserved. Maybe I will take another guess or so, and certainly a few more likes, please. There are a number of people watching, a number of people perhaps who newly joined. So we are almost ready to open. Green box. We have like a contrast stitching on it. It's like salmon. Again, this is something of a collaboration for me, in partnership. Okay, one last clue before I open. This is one of the brands that have recently used a number of heart stones for their dials. So it's a very, again, as I said, it's a design penned by someone very well respected and well known in the industry, and it's a watch that leans more heavily on aesthetics that and the stone dials were, for that reason, very well fitting to that design, because it's again aesthetic forward watch rather than horology forward. Captain Kirk, I'm glad you asked this question because it will help me clarify perhaps. By collaboration, I mean I collaborated with the brand, so I got to choose a watch from their collection for me to receive. I did. Now that we got there, I'll show you the Instagram post as well. I did an Instagram post for them. And I was given this watch in exchange for that. So I didn't collaborate in the design of the watch. The design is done by the person that I will talk about in a second. So yeah, without further ado, let's do this. I'm opening. So this watch is Dennison. It's a beautiful cushion-shaped case, very thin, as you can see. Very late 60s, 70s vibe. Very much a design watch, kind of like a pebble, true pebble-shaped case, Swiss quartz movement, and they have, two main lines basically in the ALD collection to which this belongs. One has kind of sunburst, sunray finished dials that are simpler and that are even more entry level. at $490. And then they have a number of pieces that have natural stone dials, malachite, aventurine, lapis lazuli. They have also a rubellite dial. This is the red agate. It has some beautiful graining on it. I love the fact that it's like so plain, right? Even the branding signature is minimal. No hour markers, no hash marks of any kind, no second sand, which is a good thing for a quartz watch, of course, to not have a second sand. And the movement itself is very, very subtle. It's not in any way loud or ticking. By the way, I want to show you the buckle too, which is designed in the same way as the case. It very much echoes with the contours of the case. And again, the dial itself is very beautiful. And the designer of this watch is Emmanuel Guet. And Emmanuel Guet, of course, is most famously known for iterating Gérard Janta's original design for the Royal Oak Offshore. But, as part of AP's design department, he has done a number of things. I mean, the AP that I was just wearing, right? The so-called aviator dial, or rather the military dial, as the collectors more often call it, with the radially arrayed Arabic numerals, the Royal Oak signature on the dial, the arrow-shaped centrally deployed second sand. That's Emmanuel Guet's design. The double AP initial déployant buckle that kind of encloses in this kissing fashion. And that has, again, this buckle that interpolates the part of the octagonal bezel. That's his design. A lot of these gem set pieces that seem to be very popular in the auction circuit these days for AP. Those are all Emmanuel Guet's design. By the way, Emmanuel Guet comes from a family, in fact, of designers. His father was someone who designed for Piaget and so many others. So, I was really happy to collaborate with Dennison. If you have been following Instagram, you know which post this was. And again, if you could like and comment on this, it would be very much appreciated as well. But it was this post. Swiss Beats, of course, great watch collector. Qasim Dawood-Din, Swiss Beats, famous producer and mogul, also known as Alicia Keys' husband, also known as a De Bethune ambassador, also known, of course, as a longtime collector of AP and Richard Mille and so many other brands. More recently, I spotted him wearing this Dennison piece from their ALD collection. They also have a gold PVD. You remember, Captain Kirk, we were talking about gold and gold-toned watches coming in vogue again. For some of the models, they have a gold PVD version as well, priced in the same way with stainless steel because, essentially it's the same metal, just a little differently executed. This is a rubellite tourmaline dial that's a little more crystal-like. I like this look too, but the red agate I enjoyed a little more because it still has very, pardon me, vivid grains that are not as, this was too much for me. But for Swiss, I think it's a great watch. And here he's with Chris Brancato, who is the creator of Narcos and godfather of Harlem, and they have collaborated many times in the past, and I think they have more collaborations coming. This was at the Tribeca Film Festival, I think already a couple of months ago in New York City. And yeah, I think it was a beautiful watch. I had an opportunity to see the watches up close when I was in New York last time, when they had a cool event at an art gallery with about their collectability collaboration, which just came out as well and probably already sold out. But it was this basically with a two-tone blue dial that has that's even more subtle, right? There's no signature on the dial, so that might be even more preferable to some. Great packaging that, of course, both plays with that idea of two-tone blue, but it's literally designed like a Patek Philippe coffin case, right? Where the watches initially arrived from the manufacturer, right? Of course, that was an idea that came from John Reardon and Tina Edwards from Collectability. And they were available again in stainless steel and the gold tone PVD as well. Their entry level is the Sunray dials, black and blue. They have a whole collection of stone dials, aventurine in gold, aventurine in steel, lapislazuli, gold, steel, malachite in gold and steel, the tiger eye, again in gold and steel. Oops. And then they also have these capsule collections, the Dune dial, collectability, the rubellite tourmaline, which is what Swiss Beats was wearing, the red agate, which is what I'm wearing, and even a natural wood that's available also in steel and gold, rubellite in steel and gold as well, but the red agate's only in steel, which I think is, it's a stunning looking watch. I have really enjoyed this particular piece. So yeah, it was, for me, I think this is really sentimentally important, again, because it's something that marks a moment in the development of my platform. as I mentioned to you guys, I'm so happy to be back on YouTube because I really enjoy and miss these live streams. I'm very happy to be back, but I don't think this would have opened to me if I didn't reach this critical mass on Instagram, right, where I have now 22,400 followers, right? It's kind of amazing. I mean, between this and the 2.7 here, it's unbelievable to me that I have 25,000 followers now in total. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. And it's going to hopefully double and quadruple before we know it. I have some other collaborations lined up, some within the watch world, some beyond it. And if they are realized, it could be quite interesting, but they will come sooner or later. You guys know, I always joke about it when I drink my sparkling water. I always say, hey, you have to give me an endorsement, so I drink your water. On live stream and advertise for you. If you want me to be more civil, I will even stop drinking from the bottle and pour in a glass and act classier or something. But hey, they're all lined up and they're all coming in due time. And I'm grateful to you first and foremost, because I don't think I would have existed on Instagram if I didn't exist first in the live streaming world. So I will always treasure and again go back to prioritizing my YouTube audience. But I'm also very proud of what I managed to achieve since November on Instagram, which now accounts for most of my following and brings me all the way up to 25,000 if you add up the two numbers, which is great, but not near enough, because my ambition is always at the level of a Bond villain. So I will not settle for anything less than world domination. But it seems I'm well underway. It's only a matter of time. No pun intended. All right. Well, it would have been even better if I could have one or two of you on the panel. And you guys know, I'm not in my usual shape yet. I'm still warming back up to the live streaming game. So, but even then, you guys know that I can carry these live streams on my own, and I know a lot of you stay back for that reason, because you're having enough fun when I do these streams of consciousness and just talk about watches on my own. But mind you, for people who are outside of my community, who are just glancing upon this channel for one reason or another, it's always more interesting. And even to most people within the community, it's more interesting when I have at least an interlocutor, right? To see more than one person on the screen, to have that dynamic of an unfolding conversation, more or less structured is always more fun for people. So consider that if you are ever hesitating to join, right? So next time, whether we talk in advance, whether you know that I would be live streaming or you just chanced upon it, just jump, just come on the panel, you know, and we talk about whatever you want. Of course, watches, that's my preference, but we can, you know, when the conversation flows, it branches out to so many things, and you guys know, you know, I'm open to talking about most things, and when I'm not, I'm also very you know, very clear in drawing that boundary. So feel free to jump on. Y2K, I love you, man. It's always nice to see you. Warmest greetings. You do not only carry the live stream, you uplift your channel and content with a level of vocal clarity, knowledge, and wisdom. Well, I mean, that's let's not get carried away, but you're very, very generous and kind in your praise. So I thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. So we were here for about 2 hours, and I got through what I wanted, at least for the day. I hope again in the next live stream, and it is going to be tomorrow. Last night I was really nursing a terrible migraine. I know I had promised to keep these things consistent, so I had to sit out yesterday. I hope you indulge me. I will be back tomorrow, and you know, 3 live streams in 4 days is more than what I had basically in the last few months. So we are well on our way of bringing this channel back to its usual alignment. But it's just the beginning. And I hope, you know, I can bring back having people on the panel. I can bring back people chipping in the chat, asking questions. And I will do my best to bring different kinds of content and do my best again to invite some special guests for more focused interviews and conversations, which has always been one of the strengths of this channel. Right? Again, you guys know I have a big head. I love listening to my own voice, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's much more interesting for everyone involved. And believe me, for me too, when I have some of the great interlocutors who have already been part of this channel here, and some new guests that I want to bring in, Captain Kirk. And that question perhaps we can even address to Emmanuel Get himself, because Emmanuel Get still actively designs. I know he has been doing so many different things for different brands, some of which he displays on his Instagram. For example, he has designed a number of watches for Tiffany in the last few years. But yeah, I will actually try to bring Emmanuel Get to this channel, and we can have. I know. Yeah, I know he speaks English quite fluently, so we can certainly have a good conversation about both. You know, some of his family history in watches and design, some of his personal history in design, going back to the Royal Oak Offshore and before and after at AP and beyond. And yeah, maybe looking on to future projects as well. How did he how did he get to be involved with the Dennison projects? How did he sign up to get on board? So on and so forth. So I'll keep that in mind. And I'll certainly see you guys next time. Perhaps earlier tomorrow. I'll try my best. If not, we'll see each other at my usual time. But I'll most certainly see you tomorrow. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, wear and enjoy your watches. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Please hit the like button before you leave and maybe leave a comment. Take care.